Welcome back to MUP Halo, the only Halo Flashpoint show that posts the episode really late at night, goes to bed, and nothing bad happens after that about gentlemen agreements. My name is Wiki Dave, and with me as always is James005. How are you doing, James?
I'm doing great. It's an exciting day.
It's a very exciting day. So this episode is all going to be about the news and the changes and so forth. And we promise not to talk about gentlemen's agreements and start a massive conversation about that in wherever we post it, which happened in the Halo Flashpoint Discord. Check that out, because I post the episode at 10 p.m. after a very long day in hospital. I've actually, for those that are actually looking on the YouTube, you can actually see where I had the operation. And I went to bed at 10 p.m., randomly woke up at 3 a.m., looked at the phone, and there was just paragraphs of people commenting about gentlemen's agreements. So I decided just to go back to bed, just let the chaos reign. I saw when Clive said, first off, and I was like, oh, and then it was like a paragraph of text. I'm like, okay, I'm not dealing with this right now. It was quite funny. But ultimately, we're actually going to dive through all the ODST changes that we know of. We've got actually, James, you know more about this than I do. So you got a heads up on some of these changes going through. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I'll probably do a disclaimer up front. So we've been given from Mantic very, very kindly have provided us a preview of all of the rules. So as you're listening to this, I'm hoping, technology permitting, it is around the 20th of October. This is approximately the date I understand that ODST boxes will be starting to ship to you all. We've had a preview of those rules, and as I understand it, in the coming days, we will also be getting the October balance patch with the rules update and a new Season 1 document with new scenarios for Season 1 of Halo Flashpoint. So, Mantic were very kind. They've given us a preview of all of those things. We're going to share some of them on screen with you if you're with us on the YouTube. The Mantic haven't sent us any physical product. Boo. No, that's fantastic to get this preview. So Mantic haven't sent us any physical product, and they haven't given us any money, right? So they've not told us what we can say, what we can't say. We've made no such agreement with Mantic. It will not surprise any of you to know, I'll be honest about what's in here. But I am very excited. We've had, I've had a time to have a few games with this stuff. So, we're going to take you through that. Now, this may end up as 2 episodes, but we're going to start with the balance patch, launch into the ODSTs, because then you need to understand a little bit the balance patch to understand the ODSTs. And then there may be an episode break, there may not, and then we'll go on to talk about Season 1 and kind of bring it all together and what this means. So that's the exciting episode we have for you today. I don't think I can say exciting any more times. Go on, Dave.
No. James has definitely been a lot more excited than I have, mainly because he's been keeping an eye on these changes and he's more on the tournament scene, but I've been watching them take place as well. And we actually initially planned to have Ash actually come on the episode to talk about this as well. And yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting. And yeah, as James said, we haven't been given any advanced product or anything, and that does, bias and all that stuff. Even if they did, we would still be very honest with it. I think no one wins by fudging how we feel about things. I mean, if it's very, very harsh, maybe fudging things just to lessen the blow, but none of that going on. We just want to be straight shooter because we want the best game possible. We really like Mantic. I mean, a lot of people forget Mantic's not exactly like a Warhammer or a massive company. James has actually been to the store in Nottingham. It's not a massive company, but we also want to make sure we support in the right way, which is giving fair and honest opinions about what they're putting out. So we'll dive right into it. Now, what we're going to show, we are not going to show everything that we have, mainly because we're not actually quite sure what we can or can't show. So we will be mainly talking about some of these changes rather than showing them. We will show all the ODST cards. We will not be showing deer or buck. So for those that are looking out for those, unfortunately, those won't be included here. But we will show those cards and just go through, even including the hot drop card as well, because I think that's something that a lot of people are curious about. So that would be good to dive into it. So to get to, we'll start off with the balance patch. The biggest change is frag. So I'll let you take this away there, James.
Yeah, so frag is something we know that we've had. I don't know if that screen change is supposed to happen, Dave. There we go. Cool.
Ignore that. Ignore that. It's me just playing around the beginning. Whenever you see something going wrong on screen, just ignore it and just pretend that only the audio people are here.
Yeah, no, that's cool. All right, audio people. So the balance update is coming. I keep calling it a balance patch, but this is an update to the rules that sort of makes a few sort of decent quality of life changes for us all. We'll start with frag, because I think that's the one that people are most interested in, and probably the one that has the most gameplay effect, regardless of kind of how you're engaging with Halo. So the core change to frag is, rather than frag working every time, so as it is today, you'll roll, you'll hit the cube, you'll do the damage as appropriate, you then would go to scatter all of the models that were in the cube that was hit by a frag weapon. Going forward, you will only scatter and pin those models whose survive roll doesn't beat the attack roll of the frag. I explained that very badly. If you roll a frag 4 attack against someone, you will roll 4 dice. They will roll their defense dice, normally 3. If the attacker gets as many successes as the defender will be pinned and scattered. If the defender gets more successes, they will stay put. This makes frag a bit less reliable, right? So it's still an effective tool, but it will be less reliable. It will also mean that not every model in a cube is affected by frags. You will have some instances where models are pinned and thrown out of the cube. Some models where they're pinned and thrown into a wall. Some models that aren't pinned and aren't moved around at all. That makes frag a bit weaker. It's a soft buff to elites because they have a higher defense. It's a soft buff to Master Chief because he has an even higher defense. So, that allows, it is a soft change. It doesn't ruin frag altogether, which is good because a lot of good models with frag weapons in the game. A lot of models are frag. But it does tone it down a touch. Frag is still good. You'll still see frag, but it will make it a bit less reliable for people and sort of bring it back a bit closer into line with those other weapons. So that's kind of the first kind of key change that you'll see as a result of this.
And it's worth noting that it replaces the final paragraph of the current frag keyword. So
yes,
if you've got the keywords in front of you, and what we're seeing here on the Mantic games wiki.com, I built this little quick reference. So this is the current rule for frag. It hasn't got the change on it. But basically, the final paragraph is going to be replaced with this new dialogue. So the majority of it's still the same. So I think that's key. If you just want to go, all right, I just want the fundamentals. The last paragraph is going to be swapped out for this new rule. So that's a nice, easy way of thinking it going forward. That's why I'm kind of showing it there. Cool.
And then the next change you need to be aware of, the activation command dice. So the command dice that does the +1 activation now allows you to choose to go second instead of always choosing to go first. That means in some scenarios where you want to go second, things like strongholds, classically you do have a way of forcing yourself to go second now with orders dice, which is a good quality of life change and opens up balance in a few scenarios. So that's really good. And then finally, in this kind of the raft of changes that are kind of most relevant to the game, there's a change now to the scout rule, which allows models with an advance of 1 when they respawn to crouch for free. There's a lot of models in the ODSTs with scout. So that's quite a relevant change. It provides them obviously with a bit of a defensive buff and a bit of an offensive buff the turn in which they respawn. So that's just worth keeping in mind.
I would also say that this is the change is additional to what's already there. So nothing's being removed from the current rule. It's just being added to it. From my understanding, what it says, additional text to the current. So I get the impression that it's going to be added to it. So if the current rule, that that still exists, but this
Mhm.
extra is being added to it.
Exactly. So you can get basically, your scouts now get to move on and crouch if they move one. That obviously, scouts with long ranged weapons, that's really fantastic because they can come on, they get an extra dice to their ranged attack and a bit more protection, which I think the ODSTs really enjoy. And it's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to make sure we talked about this change before we got into the ODSTs, which is what you've all come to see. There are some other changes. Threat sensor, active tap, camo have gotten and health pack have gone under a little bit of a change. It's not over relevant here. There's been some clarifications on quantum translocator. That may also have changed. So the version of the document we're working from is not necessarily the final version. So watch your space on that one. And then the rest of it is points cost changes, which I'm not going to go into now, and I'm not going to read to you. By the time you're hearing this, you will be 24, 48 hours from having this in your hand, I expect, anyway. But broadly, the points cost changes align to very closely to the power level of the thing that you were talking about before. So the very good stuff has got more expensive. The less good stuff has got cheaper. A lot of stuff is sort of in the middle. So we wanted to cover that before we got onto the exciting ODST stuff because it's relevant. Frag changes and particularly scout changes are really relevant to those cards. So we can get on now and talk to you about the sort of the exciting ODST stuff, and then we'll loop back to the points changes and talk about that in a bit more depth once you've got a line of sight to the ODST stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I would actually say, how about we pause right here really quick? So James, with the balance patch, was there anything that jumped out at you, or did you feel like, nah, it's all makes sense, there was all expected changes?
There are a few things. So I think the things that are really nice in the balance patch, I probably would have. So what surprised me? I think the access to there is a change that allows you access to 2 single-use command dice on top of the additional single-use command dice you can buy. It means you can sort of get more access to command. The extra command dice cost has also the permanent one has also reduced a little bit. So what you're seeing now is sort of a little more freedom of access to command dice. The weapon tokens thing we talked about last time that we used at Nationals is now codified in here. There's a lot of quality of life in here. But as a balance patch, it is a very measured first balance patch, and therefore you're not changing tons and tons. A lot of points costs have changed, and a lot is being done through the economics of the game, which we're going to talk about. But in terms of what surprised me, I think it is well measured and somewhat cautious. So don't be worried that you've suddenly got to relearn how to play the entire game. What was good before is good now. A lot of this is about points and about tweaks around the edges, which is a good sign at this stage.
Yeah. So just to dive, because this is more me coming from an era, I don't play a lot of tournament play and competitive play of other games. With these balance changes that you've seen for the Halo compared to everything else, is this pretty much standard, the amount of changes here, or would you say this is quite minimal in terms of other games that you have played?
I mean, every game is different. In other games I've played, it has been less about adjusting points and more about like changing whole models. I know in the AMA, Mantic talked about why they haven't done that at this stage. So like what they fundamentally haven't done is changed a Mark 7. Mark 7's being one of the most prevalent models competitively. They've gone in and adjusted points, right? That has benefits and drawbacks. So that's it is all of your hardware that you've got, all of your cards are still the cards and they still work, right? Nobody needs to go print a new version of their cards, so that's really useful. That is a positive thing. I would probably I think there's a danger. There's always a danger of the balance patch, right? If you go too hard and change too much, it's confusing. It puts players off. We don't want to be doing that. If you go too light and too soft on a balance change, you don't change enough stuff, you end up having to come back, right? And change it again. which adds more confusion to the player base. Because hang on a minute, am I playing? And I think Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think we've got to its third or fourth. Is on its third or fourth new version of Thanos right now, because it keeps messing Thanos up. So you don't want to be in that situation. Similarly, you can nuke something from orbit and just go, well, this is a problem. We won't be seeing any more of these in competitive play, and nuking it from orbit. And I've seen that in other cases. So this is trying to find a middle ground. If I was to call it, this is probably on the soft side of that end. I do wonder if we're back for frag a second time. But right now, having played with this and played with these changes as a whole, because this is sort of the balance patch is one thing. You're about to get a load of ODSTs. You're about to get a load of new scenarios that we're going to talk about. I don't want to do too much summing up at this stage. Because a lot of what matters is in those other documents. I think this is a cautious, even-handed approach that that will that when taken as part of the package of these changes, I am really excited about. I can't express enough. This is really, really fun, and we'll talk about that as we go through. So I think we can move on. We can go to talk to the ODSTs unless there's anything else you wanted to cover, Dave. But I think that thumbs up.
I've just got one more question coming from the side of ignorance. Do they often I don't know how common this is, because I know in Magic the Gathering there's certain cards that are just banned from tournament play and so forth. Does that happen much in competitive play when it comes to game? I mean, obviously nothing's been banned in Halo yet, but other games you've played, is there just like Thanos? So it's a good example. They've just outright just banned a character just because they've screwed it up so much. Is that very common?
No, it's almost unheard of for so there's a real thing about this in a lot of wargaming. So generally, if it's cardboard, people will be prepared to ban it. So there are lots of bits of cardboard that end up getting banned. So Marvel has a cardboard element. There are a number of things in there that will not see the light of day again. And it's not uncommon to rotate them out. So to say, actually, we've printed a lot, we're printing new cards every month. Actually, it's time to these ones are now going to be in an old format. You can play it casually, but this current list that were better designed, that are more fresh, these are the ones we're going to use going forward. That's all really common. Miniature game systems do not do that with miniatures for some reason. I think mostly nerd rage. The idea that you paid for a physical model and you can't use it anymore is too significant. I think the only people I'm aware of who've done it are Games Workshop, and I think Malifaux has done it more recently as well, where you've got something that we haven't printed one of for 15 years or for 5 years. You haven't been able to buy this for 5 years. We're sort of going to say, look, this is for casual play only, but that's pretty rare. Generally, they would much rather just adjust the rules of the model to create a more balanced experience. And ultimately, they don't want to sell you a piece of plastic and then tell you can't use it.
Fair enough.
People don't like that, especially they spent time painting it. I actually think companies could be bolder about this, particularly skirmish game systems that are selling you not very much stuff to begin with. I think telling you your entire army is invalid. If you've spent thousands on a GW army is a problem. Telling you this one model that maybe you own 5 of, that's just part of a much smaller experience. Actually, it's time for that to go away for a bit. I don't think that in organized play, I don't think is as bad, but that's a kind of a year 5 thing. It's not a year.
Yeah, it is. Thing. I was just generally curious because I'm pretty sure Middle Earth has done it to a couple of armies.
Oh, possibly.
But, I mean, it's just a GW kind of thing because they're too big to fail. I don't know. But anyway, thanks for playing along there, because I really just don't know enough about the tournament scene for other games. So
you're just teasing the audience. They're all desperate.
I am teasing the audience
to the cards.
So we're going to jump into it. Yeah, we'll jump into the ODST card. So first of all, we'll do the special order. So we'll do hot drop. Now, I've designed. I'm not showing it. This is someone's comment from our YouTube, which we'll go through later on. But the reason why I've put this up right now is because I've slightly changed the cards very subtly so people wouldn't steal them or at least we could tell if people just screenshot the cards. And they're very, very subtle, but I will be able to tell if I see them post anywhere. So we'll start with Hot Drop. There
So
we
for
go.
those of you in an audio medium, rush to
They'll have no
YouTube
idea.
where Dave has plastered my face over the ODST, presumably because I've refused to get on camera this morning, mostly because I haven't rigged my camera up.
That's not the reason, though. Just for the record, that I'm not that petty. That's not the reason. That's just me going, all right, let's just play around with this a little bit. So, and yes, I have replaced the face of every ODST. So look forward to, for those that are watching, look forward to guessing who I've swapped out. But yeah, James, you are the knowledge expert when it comes to this. This is the special order. We won't read it out because otherwise it will get a little bit boring. We'll let James. Do you want to try and sum it up the best you can?
Yeah, we're not a read the cards podcast. Mostly because it'll take me 5 minutes and I'll just stumble over every word. Basically,
we can barely read our notes, to be honest.
Yeah, this is it. It doesn't help that I type them. So Hot Drop. So this is the special ODST special order. You can use an orders dice when a model. It's got two uses. So when a model is respawning, an ODST is respawning, you can use the orders dice. You put that ODST wherever you want on the board. It has to be on the top of the stack. Can't put it. You can't put it in a cube with another model. I don't believe. It's been 5 minutes since I've read this card. I've already forgotten.
Right. No, you're right. You're right.
You put it in an empty cube on the top of the stack, so you can't like parachute into the middle of a building. And then you roll. You make a 3 dice range test. If you get 2 successes, you're fine. If you fail, so you don't get 2 successes on those 3 dice, you are pinned, and you will scatter into an adjacent cube. So potentially, depending on how that's into a wall or off whatever you're faced on. The second mode is you can use it in the first round. Immediately after you roll your first set command dice, you can use it to do the same thing to redeploy your ODSTs with exactly the same effect, right? So this allows you a great deal of flexibility in where you move your ODSTs to. There's upsides and downsides to this. Obviously, that is a fantastic amount of movement to get access to. The downside is when you fail one of these, it is bad, right? So there's a rules interaction you need to be aware of. If you are pinned during your own activation, your go is over. So if you hot drop in after the game has started, if you hot drop in, you fail that range test, and it's about a coin flip, maybe a little bit better than a coin flip, give or take, depending on your stats. You're going to be scattered and pinned. So now your go is over because you started your go when you started respawning. You're now pinned. Your go is over. So you've lost your entire activation, and you will start your next activation pinned. That's a big drawback. It's a high risk, high reward.
Yeah, definitely.
That being said, if you've got enough ODSTs, you don't mind just kicking them out the back of the spaceship and seeing which ones live. That's that's something you can get away with. Just go, well, we'll throw 3 down. You need a lot of orders dice for that, of course, but we're going to throw 3 down, and hopefully one of them makes it in okay. That's fine. It's also a bit better on the first round of the game because that model isn't activating when it's hot dropped, so it will be able to sort of first activation stand up, so it won't lose its entire round. I think this is a really interesting rule. There's also the risk that you've scattered off where you want to be. It's obviously better in take and hold style missions, I think, where actually just physically hot dropping a model onto a hill is really useful. Even if they don't get to go, it can potentially block an enemy from getting what they want, or it can set you up nicely for next turn. In sort of kill missions or in kind of run it and go, run off with stuff missions, I think it is a bit less useful. But it's, I think it's certainly an interesting order and adds an interesting dimension. It doesn't at this stage look overpowered, which I think is what we want from an ability that allows this much movement.
And I think it does help with some of the drawbacks we'll go into with ODST, in terms of movement. I think that this does help negate some of those negatives there. Actually, just before we dive in, we did get a question in our Discord about Hot Drop, and it's worth kind of bringing out. Now, initially when we posted it, I was a little bit confused by it. It's by the Gina, Gina, what 2 N's? Yeah. Basically, what they're asking is with Hot Drop, is there a limit to how many can kind of drop around a particular unit? So they compared it to in ODST, there is a particular scene where you have a brute and it's like overwhelmed by ODSTs and they're all kind of stabbing it and so forth with melee weapons. I think the question is there a limit to how many you can put in adjacently? And from my understanding, there isn't a limit. But I mean, if you are kind of hot dropping 4 at once and they're already on the table, you're already having a bad time with the game. But ultimately, I don't think there is a limit. So you can definitely put 4 if you're lucky as well.
Yeah, so I mean, the core thing with that is you can't hot drop into a cube with an existing model, right? Unless you fail and scatter there. So
you can do a row of them though if you really want.
Yeah, but at 1 orders dice each, that's going to be expensive, right? And you're going to need to roll a special order to do it. So it's unlikely, but it's possible. It might be there's a good mode there for thematic, like if you want to do some scenario play, you want to play some narrative stuff. Feel free to go for it. I think this is I think it's possible, but I think it's
technically possible.
Yes.
So it's technically possible, and competitive probably won't happen. But you never know. Weird things happen in tournaments and competitive play, and it is possible. So, anything else you want to go over with Hot Drop before we go into the actual units themselves?
No, I think let's go. I think that gives us a setup, and let's get going.
All right, so the first one we'll go over is the ODST second lieutenant. Again, very subtle about how I've changed this one. It's a very young Ronnie Renton.
There you go. I think we should let the rest make people go to the YouTube to see the rest of the edits, Dave.
That's right. It's a good teaser. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. This is the second lieutenant. You'll see the card on screen. So we'll start with the kind of defensive profile because that's common to all ODSTs. That is 1 armor, 3 health. So they have about if you were just looking for raw hits to kill one of these guys, they're about half as survivable as a Spartan. But no shields, 1 armor, 3 health. They do go down reasonably easy, but they've got a then they're not quite as easy as they're not sort of one shot and they're dead every time. In my experience, so they're sort of they're in a kind of reasonable space with that their survivability, especially when you as we will do, we'll look at the points costs. I mean, this is a second lieutenant, so I think about 28 points. So nice and cheap, cheaper than any Spartan, but by some distance. So got scout, got tactician 1. So this is one of the models that brings tactician to the game. You'll need tactician as ODSTs because you are a bit slower than everybody else. The scout, so the scout's useful. They've got to start putting scout on models because a lot of my game modes only have four cubes of deployment space. So if you're starting to bring 5 and 6 models to a game, you need scout in order to fan out so you don't just get shot with a frag weapon first round. So
good point. Very good point, actually.
But he's one of these. He is move 1-2, which is probably the base now for most models. I think that are coming out seem to be kind of 1-2 base movement. So a slower model. He has scout and the move 1. So when he respawns, he will crouch, which gives him a bit more defensive kit.
True.
He has a sort of a standard. He has the standard kind of close combat fists, which have no special rules, just so he can pummel someone in melee if he wants to kind of wail on them with his fists. I wouldn't recommend it. And then he's got the Avenger Carbine, which is a range 3, weight of fire 3 gun. So not inherently a useful weapon on its own, but with this guy being as cheap as they are, and with them having tactician, these are probably a prime candidate to take a longer range kind of weapon. They're fight 4, range 4, so they'll and save 5. So they'll this guy has a really decent chance to be upgraded. That is the same stats profile as a Mark 7, which is really good. So he's a prime candidate to take and upgrade with some kit to go. Okay, well, we'll give this guy a concussion rifle. He can stand at the back, providing tactician and lob some grenades from relative safety, or give him a decent optics gun and have him sort of at the back, popping shots off at people. He'll be reasonably efficient at that.
Yeah, well, when I spotted this is my favorite, to be honest. This one with an upgrade. I don't think I would put it in without one. I'll probably, as you said, it's exactly my mindset. I'll put it on optics with them. I really like this one. It stands out the most to me. but that's me personally. That's me
Yeah.
not being that great at the game. I don't know if I'm actually great, but
Time will tell. Tactician is
exactly.
always good. 28 points for a
Mm.
tactician is really good, and he's got good stats. But if you're looking for the bar is in an interesting place. The thing I still haven't figured out is where the bar is for an impactful activation going forward. So, really, in kind of competitive Halo, you need kind of meaningful, impactful activations. This guy doesn't provide one on his own, but then he's so cheap, you might actually get into a world where there's enough models on the board that actually his activation being impactful doesn't matter as much, right? So, there's lots of ways to go with this. We'll figure that out as we go as a community. But very, a nice base, and that's kind of the core of a ODST. Move 1, 2, 1 armor, 3 health, save 5, and they, and then some amount of kit. But yeah, scout and tactician is not. You're never going to be upset with those rules.
No, I really like it. All right, we'll move on to the special purpose trooper. This one's actually with 23 points, so it's going to be less than the second lieutenant that we just looked at. And yeah, go ahead, James. What's your feelings?
So this is I think the one of the cheapest. I think this is the cheapest model in the game right now that you can bring at 23 points. So very, very cheap. It's also, I think, for my money, one of the coolest looking models they produced so far. Like, it just looks like an absolute badass. The again with Scout, so again we'll benefit from being able to crouch when respawning. Range 4, fight 5. The other stats are as previously described, and this guy has the DMR, which is the same DMR the Deadeye has. So you look at these guys on the respawn. Will come in, they will crouch, they will have a 5 dice attack, exploding on 7s, and lethal 1. This is where being slower, I don't think, is as big an issue for the ODSTs as it is for the bears I can't pronounce in the Banished faction, right? So if your primary mode of combat and having an impactful activation is hitting someone in the face with your giant bear hands, being move 1, 2 is a problem because it's very hard to get to someone to hit them with your giant bear hands. When you're a guy with a range 6 sniping weapon, that is a lot less of an issue because you can reach out and get the enemy from your respawn point. So you can probably play these guys. Native without that. Without like an upgrade. I do think they die easily enough that some cheap equipment actually is probably all right on these because they will cycle. They'll get killed, they'll come back, they can use their item again. So I think it's something to look out for is potentially putting single-use items on these so that they can cycle through and kind of get use out of them. But I like this guy for a very cheap way of bulking out with some decent firepower. Yeah,
and he's a good distraction at the end of the day. He put him in the right spot. He's definitely going to be lethal if you don't keep an eye on it. Very interesting because I forgot about the crouch while I was looking through these because for some reason I didn't click the 2 and 2 together. I just looked at Scout, but
that's why we did that rule first, right? This is why we did the bounce patch first, is so that people are kind of cognizant of that coming into these.
Very interesting. Cool. All right, we'll move on to the Bullfrog now. So that's the ODST Air Assault Bullfrog, as they call it. All right, James, this one's going to be quite interesting.
This is
I want to see what he says.
It's an interesting model. So this guy has a jump pack, and that's modeled onto him this time. So you'll see that he can move over cubes. He has a little bit more range a little bit more movement to him. So he's a 1-3 mover. So sprint of 3 gives him a bit more kind of capability to move across the board. Again, armor 1, health 3. This guy's a range 5 stat and a fight 4 stat, so a little bit better in melee than at range, and the standard save 5. The other place this model really comes alive is in his keywords. So he's got jump pack, as we talked about. He's also got acrobatic. Now, acrobatic for those is a keyword we haven't seen before, but is in the core rulebook. Now, that allows kills to count for more points in game. So the way it's currently worded is every kill count, model kill counts as 2 kills for the scenario, right? I believe that is getting updated to be an extra point, given we now have scenarios where, like VIP, where counting double would be 8 points a kill rather than 4 points a kill. But I haven't seen that in the doc yet, so this might be one of these things that gets in as a late breaking change, or you might get 8 points per VIP kill, in which case they are something you'd certainly want to consider. If we just flip back to the card, Dave,
Sure.
we'll talk a little bit about the rest of his kit. So he has the standard ODST combat knife, which is just an AP1 knife, so a little bit better up close. And then this guy has the same assault rifle as a Mark 7, albeit with a shot 5 stat. So rapid fire and wet fire too. So this guy can do the standard kind of pin and assault kind of play, albeit both of those less effective than you would get off a Spartan, but at a fraction of the price. And then a prime candidate, you can upgrade them with melee weapons. You could upgrade them with a longer range weapon. If you can start picking up kills in modes that count kills with this guy, that will be incredibly helpful. And still, I think this, the Bullfrog is still sort of 26 points, so still incredibly cheap. So something you could potentially take a couple of, and I think these will end up as mainstays of your ODST based forces.
Yeah, I can't say the keyword
acrobatic.
I don't know why I can't say it. God, but I wasn't sure how much of a valuable keyword that is. But if they are making changes, that does start to change the value, in my mind anyway, of this particular unit. Now, it isn't noted in the balance update at the moment of that. I've just double checked it to see if we missed it. But they could change. Obviously, they could release. Do you know if the balance update is going to be a free PDF or not? This should
just go. No, I believe it should PDF. Well, I don't know for sure. I've seen a copy of the PDF, so there is a PDF, and I'm assuming the PDF goes on the website to download, and then they update the changes into the app, into the web app that they've got. So.
Keep an eye
on
that.
Could go either way. That's but that's fine. I mean, certainly these changes are going to be, Mantic have updated rules in the app where they wanted to. Hey, I mean, look, if he's going to get 8 points a kill in VIP, that sounds really good for VIP games. My understanding is though that although it's not in the version we've seen, this is where I give a bit of a disclaimer up front. We've got an almost final version of the balance changes. The cards have been printed, right? So the ODSTs are the ODSTs. These are their rules. The kind of the balance patch, I think, is sort of almost the final draft that we've got. But I think they might well have fixed acrobatics, so you're only getting 1 extra point. But still, that is really useful. And put a pin in points for killing when we get to talk about the season 1 update, because that I think was where this becomes more interesting. So I've held this model in my hand. This is a gorgeous model, so we'll be seeing some of these. I like them a lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen them in person, but they look amazing. I think the ODST models are probably some of the best that they've done so far. I would say definitely outrank the Banished and the original Spartans. I think they look amazing, and the fact you've affirmed those thoughts are just when we talk behind the pod. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on it. It won't be a while, but won't be for a while, but it'll be great to really paint them. I'm really excited.
But for those of us living in real countries, by the time you hear this, your copies will be. I've got to keep saying that, Dave. Sorry.
Because I have to wait 6 months for stuff doesn't mean you can rub it in.
No, I think you did all right last time. I think your Banished set got there in a reasonable amount of time, didn't it? But no, so by the time you're hearing this, my understanding is that if not at this point, within a few hours of hearing this, copies of the game, as I understand it, should start leaving Mantic's warehouse. I'm not in charge of that. I don't work for Mantic. Please don't yell at us if you haven't got your copy when you expect to. Vagaries of global
yell at
shipping.
Me, I'm pretty lonely. So.
But no, so gorgeous models, and this is an interesting. This is certainly an interesting addition to that force. Should we move on and do the fire break, which is I think the last of the 4 classes?
I was going to sign up for the Bullfrog B. That's noted as 26 points, so it's the second most expensive one. So we'll go to Firebreak, the ODST Firebreak. There we go. Now, this one is quite interesting. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so this guy has the standard ODST profile. This guy's range 4, fight 5. They're all sort of combinations of 4s and 5s in the range and the fight stats, and then the rest of it's the same. So this guy's a 1/2 mover. He has he's got no keywords. He's close combat. He has a demo charge, which is an AP2 blast EMP, which means it takes everyone in the cube's shields. Lethal 1 single use close combat weapon. And then this guy has the one on screen has the M90 shotgun, which is the range 3 AP, which is range 3 and AP1. ESD 1, knockback at lethal 1. So it's a little bit weaker than the Bulldog that we've already seen. This guy's range stat 4, fight stat 5. What do you think, Dave?
Okay, it's the most expensive ODST. Is at 30 points. I feel like it's too expensive. I can't see myself using it. The once use feels like, I don't know. I don't see much value here, but you can try and convince me if I'm completely wrong here.
No, I think this is the worst one.
So, I feel that too. I was like, I don't want to sound like an idiot if I get this wrong. So I'm like, this seems like the worst one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this is the worst one. So range stat 4, cool. Fight stat 5. So this demo charge, like single use melee weapon, is really interesting. But like even with like a gravity hammer on a 4+ stat, which gets an extra dice for smash, you do regularly just like not to do anything. So to only have that like that is a really, really dicey thing to be paying points for, is that demo charge, especially when you're a move 1/2 character with fight 5. Like that is really kind of Hail Mary territory to get value out of this guy. And then the shotgun is the shotgun, right? I mean, it would probably be better if the range stat was 5 and the melee stat was higher, so that like you could reliably whack you with a demo charge. I think this is probably the weakest one, because there's no special rules there. He's not scouting.
Yeah, I was going to say that for our audio listeners. There's no special rules, nothing that we've missed off here. It just does. There's nothing. It doesn't seem like I'm trying to think of what's a good scenario to bring this into, other than just, you've got some extra points there, you could throw it in. But I don't even think that's even a good idea. So I mean, it's a hard one.
Not every model can be good, right? Something has to be the worst one, right? I do think this is the worst one. I think the other 3 will all see play. So that this is an interesting, but I think the others, also we haven't. So this is a good point to point out. We've been through 4 of the models. In the box, you get 2 of each of the models we've just shown you, and then 2 each of the models we've just shown you, and 2 each of the 4 versions we haven't seen. So you get 4 fire breaks, 2 of each type. You get 4 special purpose, 2 of each type. You get 1 lieutenant. So you get 2 lieutenants and 2 captains. So you'll notice we've only shown you half of the profiles, right? We haven't shown you the other 4 weapons profiles. They are being previewed by a different podcast. One Dave keeps trying to start beef with. So if you want to tell them that they stole our preview, the lovely gentleman at Truth and Reconciliation will be sharing with you the other half of the box. So the stat lines are the same. It's the weapons that are different, with the exception of the captain. So the Truth and Rec guys will share those. I think we'll be, from what you've seen here, you'll get a good flavor, right? The weapons options are different, but the sort of the models are the models are the same, and probably their use cases are pretty similar. This is the preview that we have for you.
Yeah, and to be like to reaffirm that we have not seen the other version at all. So the only things that we can take on it is the keywords for every type. It will be the same. Probably the weapons is where it's going to differ a little bit. So we don't know whether that's definitely it could change Firebreak entirely, depending on what.
We do know that, Dave. Sorry, just to be clear, right? We do know that. It's just what we're.
I don't.
You don't.
I
Okay.
don't.
I do.
don't.
You're okay. No,
I didn't. James, I didn't know you knew. So whatever. Okay.
No,
James knows and I don't. All right. So there you go. Oh well. But yeah. Anyway, let's just move on for the awkward moment I get cut out of life. That's about all the units. So what's your favorite? Because you've heard from me. So what's your favorite one that stands out?
I really like. So for me, I think that the two. I really like all of them, depending on the circumstances, except for the fire break. I probably go with. I would probably go with the. I think the bullfrog is the most interesting. It's got that slightly higher movement. I'm interested in playing with acrobatic. I mean, acrobatic is presumably there because they couldn't write teabagging into the rules, but the sort of acrobatic is there as a for them. They've got the higher movement. They can. They're a reasonable case to be upgraded. Similarly, but I really think like the special purpose is interesting. The second lieutenant for the tactician is really interesting. I'm sort of the cheapness of the special purpose troopers, particularly with the effectiveness their guns are going to have. A DMR with crouch on the respawn is really nice. So they can do something the turn that they respawn, without needing to be upgraded, which, really means our special purpose troopers are cheap. I think the only downside to these guys is they are a little bit slower, but those ranged weapons really help to, kind of make up for that. So slow, fragile, but, pack in a nice punch in a lot of cases.
All right, so those are all the cards there. So what I suggest anyone out there, if you got any thoughts, feelings on what you've seen, and also make sure you go over to the Truth and Reconciliation podcast, listen to their those versions. So you got the whole squad, or the squad, and then let us know which one stands out to you, even if it's one of the dirty ones that we're feuding with of the other pod. I think it's quite interesting. I think a lot of time this is just speculation. At the end of the day, we're just seeing stats on a card, how they're actually going to play out once you combine everything. We're only going to find that out with time once everyone's got their hands on the actual kits themselves. So let us know how it goes. Pop it in the Discord and just basically let us know, because the only way we're going to find out is by people commenting. Now, we're going to jump into the points changes now. So with the balance patch update, we did definitely have some points changes. Now, I would show them, but we're not going to be doing that because I'm still a little bit uncertain on what we can or can't show. So we're actually just going to verbally say a few things there. So I'll let James take it away with some things he's noted when it comes to these points changes.
Yeah, so the lion's share of the changes you'll have seen. We've talked about the rules changes up front. We've talked about the ODSTs. Let's talk about the points. So there are a lot of points changes. I am not going to read you all the points changes because by the time you're hearing this, you will not be very far off being able to just download that from Mantic. So broadly, if you were to sort of plot out what are the best things in the game, what are the worst things in the game, you would find that their points costs have moved kind of accordingly, right? So probably the defining kind of season 0 kind of model and loadout would be a Mark 7 with the assault rifle, a grav hammer, a grapple, and a translocator, right? That's kind of the poster child of season 1. That would have cost you 59 points in season 0. That's up to 68 points in season 1. So about up about 9 points. That kind of combination. That's a combination of sort of the Mark 7 himself going up to sort of 45. And cost changes in the other items as well. So. There are kind of the things that are really good are more expensive. I think my nationals list is about 21 points more, so it'd be 221 points rather than 200. So you are seeing the stuff that's really highly taken has gone up in cost. You've got the Gungners are all up in cost. The Gungnir with the grenade launcher now 46. You're seeing the Zvezdas have come down in points. Zvezda, the Commando Zvezda is now the joint cheapest Spartan at 36 points, right? So you're seeing these sort of Spartans continue to run that kind of range. For the banished side of things, obviously that is not my area of expertise, but the banished I've seen points reductions broadly. Most things in the banished have gone down in points. So you can now get a warrior with a commando for 32 points. You can get a berserker for 32 points as a banished. People will want to know, the elite with the sword is for 47. You're seeing a much sort of more diffuse range of costs in the banished, and a sort of things that have been lower powered have gone down in price. So that's really kind of that kind of really readjusts the points to the power level of the individual things. Weapon wise, you're also seeing kind of you're seeing a premium being put on frag and a premium being put on rapid fire, which is good, because if you remember the old costs, they were broadly like, how killy is this? And that's where it's costed. In Halo, the displacement and the pinning effects are much more important in competitive play, so those have broadly gone up. Some of the raw killing power things have gone down. And so you're sort of seeing that sort of separation. And that's all broadly positive into those changes.
Anything that kind of surprised you at all, or it all just seems standard, kind of just tweaking?
I mean, all of this is. I mean, I think that is probably slightly the surprise. Yes. I mean, I think that we talked about in the previous section, that orders dice being available in like a set of 2 orders dice. Single use orders dice is now 4 points as a command upgrade. The single use orders dice down to 1, which means for 5 points you can have 3 single use orders dice. The extra command dice option is down to 8 points. So you've got a sort of, that kind of baselining is really helpful. And it'll help the banished out a lot. In terms of what surprised me, I think CQBs are still wildly overcosted. But
you reckon?
the top end they're the top end of the points range and still functionally unplayable. So I'm not totally clear why that is, but I think they're still suffering from having very good weapons that they will never get into combat with. So it's that's a good kind of selection of changes points wise. Where I think I'm a little bit less positive is in the item changes. So again, they've done a good job of how powerful is this? What is its points cost? Right, like these align really pretty well to these points cost align really pretty well to how good is something. But yes, I think where you see the slight flaw in the approach is things like grapple shots are now 5 points, right? So grapple shot is the best item. Almost, I don't think I've seen a competitive list in a long time that doesn't have 2 grapple shots in it. The problem with putting up the price of a grapple shot is generally when you're adjusting through points, you think of it like taxation, right? Generally, you would want to tax things you don't want people to do, right, to reduce the amount of it that they do. So a sugar tax on fizzy drinks, at least in theory, works because by making the fizzy drinks more expensive, people will have less of them, which is good for you, right? And good for the health of society. A water tax doesn't do anything because you need water. It doesn't achieve anything because you're still going to have to drink the water. The water is now more expensive. This is where some things this is where it's almost the inverse of the tactician thing. Making access to tactician cheaper is good because it's a mechanic you absolutely need to be competitive in a fun and innovative and useful mechanic. The grapple shots are necessary because while they exist in their current form, they are the best item in the game and they are necessary. You can't really play extraction without grapple shots, right? There are some instances where putting up points cost because something is popular and powerful doesn't actually help your game at all, doesn't help your meta. So we're effectively now paying grapple shots were 3 points, they're now 5 points. So we've gone from paying the first 2 things in the list for a grapple shot, that was 6 points. It's now 10 points. Cool. We're now playing a 196 point game or 100 or 190 point game, right? You sort of all you're really doing is reducing the amount of the points limit of the game by putting their price up. But otherwise, I think it's a really good set of changes.
Why do you think that they increased it then? I mean, you make a very valid point. I'm just trying to see the logic in it.
I think they've gone very heavily on the kind of the analysis of what is popular, and therefore what, in some cases they've kind of gone, well, what is popular, and therefore what are we seeing a lot of, therefore we'll bring it down. And it's not a terrible way to do it, right? I think there's just a couple of cases where you go, that's cool, but I don't know what you would have to put the price of a grapple shot up to stop me taking two of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not going to detract people from using it, which is the whole point of putting it up. So it just feels like it's doing it for doing its sake rather than actually anything effective. Yeah, it's confusing.
Remains to be seen, right? And they can always bring them down again. I think what is nice is the thruster has gone down to 3 points. So maybe there are times where you're going to see more thrusters. More movement is good, and that will particularly help. We've got ODSTs and banished, so who are shorter movers now. So they will love having cheaper access to thrusters at 3 points. I think there's a really and there is a bit of a premium being tacked onto tactician. But access to sort of the cheaper other tactician options should help with that. Overall, though, I think a decent set of changes, and it all refreshes the meta. Even if it's not perfect, the change refreshes the meta. It means we're going to play with different models, at least in principle, and therefore, we're going to hopefully see some new and interesting stuff on the board.
Yeah, I want to see some lists that come out of this. I don't get to see many lists unless. I mean, yeah, I see some lists in tournaments and so forth, but I would like to see a few people flick their lists our way, and just so I can kind of look at them and see what people's feelings are when these kits come out. It's going to be quite interesting to see everyone's builds. Have you got a particular build in mind at the moment with ODSTs, or just this is all kind of like you're still playing around with the ideas?
Oh, you're asking me to give the listeners my secret tech before we've even started.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know is the honest answer. So I mean, I've played around with it. You can still get. I mean, I've been playing around. Sorry, that was unfair of me. I've been playing around. You can still play lists with, so right. I've got to stop going on 3 tangents before I get to my point. I've played around with some lists. You still need access to tactician. Tactician is still, orders dice are still the fun and interesting mechanic, or one of the core fun and interesting mechanics at the heart of this game. You still want access to them, and they're still necessary to play the scenarios. So you can still play lists with 5 tactician as Spartans and as ODSTs. That is still perfectly doable, perfectly viable. You can also play with 4 and multiple kind of bonus dice. I don't think the access tactician is going anywhere, which is good because it's a fun and interesting mechanic. I think it has changed up. Like I've started playing around with a Pulse Carbine Mark 7 a bit. Experimenting with some brawlers again. I think those are really interesting. I still look at I still look at the CQBs and cannot understand why a CQB is, with an energy sword is 47 points. I think you could take anywhere up to 10 points of a CQB and it would probably still be all right. Like I think it's a model that just suffers so much from being from its save 6 and being incredibly slow and needing to get to melee. Like there's just no reason for it to be that weak, that expensive. But you got some cheap options now with your Hazops and your Zvezdas, and the mixing in the ODSTs to sort of be able to go a bit wider is quite interesting. Mixing in ODSTs to be able to sort of we use cheap ODSTs to bulk out my numbers and then really upgrade my Spartans to have some really kind of heavy hitting Spartans, and that's a possibility. It's too early to say where the meta is going to go with this stuff, but it is interesting. And the banished just being a bit cheaper, it is easier for them to have 4 models. It is reasonable for them to have. It's easier for them to have 4 models. They can have kind of 3 higher quality models. I still think they'll probably end up being 3 wide for the moment, but then I don't think that's as punishing in the new scenario pack as it was in the old. So, I think we're in for a really interesting meta as a result of this.
And for comparison, you got the second lieutenant ODST that's 28 points, And just for comparison, the MK7, that's 45 points. So there is a good hunk of difference between the two. So yeah.
Oh yeah,
the lists are going to be
yeah.
interesting to watch.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the points cost difference in like being able to go. I mean, ODSTs. If you want to go primarily ODST, because there'll be a choice. Like you can go all ODST. I think that'll probably be a bit weak. You can go mostly ODST with a few kind of high power Spartans, and that'll be really interesting. You can go mostly Spartan with some sort of ODST support. You can go pure Spartan if you want. If you absolutely don't want to play, you absolutely only want to play Spartans. You can absolutely do that. Under these rules, that'll be very interesting to see because they are highly mobile. They are tougher than most things lying about at the moment. I think that'll be an interesting option for people where they take a couple of cheaper Spartans and just really go for it and go, well, we're going to carve through the new guys like butter and go for that, but then not have access to as much stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see which way people go with it.
Yeah, I'm expecting some mixed lists for the UNSC, the Spartan ODSTs. I'm expecting we're going to see a lot more mixed lists than we probably would have thought. So that's my thought on it. But who knows? It's all going to come out once we start seeing those tournaments after. Oh, do you know when's the first tournament you're going to with ODSTs in the mix? Do you have one locked in yet?
Oh, it's almost like we planned that as a plug. We didn't actually, but it sounded like we did. So in the first tournament I'm aware of, with the new for season 1, certainly in the UK, I can't speak for what's happening globally, but for the UK, it will be on the 9th of November. It's being hosted at my friendly local gaming store. We've got some swag available for people that sign up. We're distributing some of that through spot prizes, so it should be a good day out. It'll be your first opportunity in the UK to play the new Season 1 pack. So by all means, come to that. There is also another event later in November at Mantic's HQ. I think there's one in London even later in November, and then stuff being planned into December, which I don't think my wife has spotted on the calendar yet, which will be an interesting conversation. So when she finds out I'm absconding that close to Christmas, but no, there's this will obviously launch. My understanding is, the ODSTs will start going out to people week of the 20th of October. It is only like a couple of weeks till the first event that we've got in the UK with that, and it's 20 minutes down from the road from me at my FLGS, so I couldn't be happier about that.
Perfect. And James will win that because it's 4 days before my birthday, so he's forbidden from losing. Cool. So that's exciting, and obviously let us know out there what tournaments, because I do kind of want to go with doing this podcast. I kind of want to start highlighting tournaments that are happening. So if you've got a particular tournament you want us to shout out, just flick us a message, because I'm more than happy to put in a plug, show the advertisement, the banner, or whatever's been created for it, because the more people turn up to these events, the more community that we form, and I can really get on board with that. Cool. All right. So, did you want to jump into season 1, the official season 1 guide?
Yeah, we can start talking about season 1. So,
I don't know if we want to show that yet, but all right.
No, we've done it now, Dave. So that's
all right,
so we'll let YouTube pause and read that. So, welcome to season 1. So, this has been trailed for a while, so the organised play document is rotating over onto season 1. They're going to do this about every 6 months. What does that mean? It means new scenarios. So even if you're not a tournament-going player or a competitive player, it means every 6 months you're getting new missions to play with your friends, right? So this is hopefully relevant to everybody. There are a bunch of new missions here. There is a whole new set of achievements, and it's just a brand new season for Halo. So once you take the ODSTs, the balance patch, and this together, you're getting a really nice shake up of the game and a real kind of refresh. So we'll kind of look at this. We'll look at this now. We're going to show one of the scenarios on this cast. I'll talk a little bit about all of them. There are 8 in here, but we're going to show you the rules for one, and it's one I found really exciting to play. This is Siege. So Siege is a flag-based game.
Husky Siege for those audio listeners.
Oh yeah, so the entire season is Husky season. So this is a lot of the missions are prefixed Husky because it's the Husky version of Siege. So Husky Siege, this is a flag-based game. Now the flag, for those who can't see, for those who can, you can see it on the map. You deploy, rather than deploying in opposite corners, you deploy you deploy your models sort of in down the same down corners that are along the same board edge, that share a board edge, right? So on the map on the screen, you've got blue deploying bottom left, red deploying bottom right of the map. And then towards the top center of the map, a flag will spawn in one of two random places, but they're next to each other, so they're functionally equivalent for the purposes of sort of the initial turn of they're as easy to reach from either side. Your job is to get that one flag, and there's only one flag. You're both fighting over the same one, back to your scoring zone, which is next to your deployment zone, and they are there's only two clear cubes between them. Between the two flag points. So you've got to run up, you've got to grab your flag, and then you've got to run your flag very close to where the enemy is also trying to run their flag, which makes this quite, it's not a kind of run away and hide. It's kind of grab the flag and then run into the teeth of the enemy while they're trying to intercept you and get the flag back. It plays really quite frantically. It's quite a nice kind of tense game. The flag functions in the way that the flag broadly functions in the current version of Capture the Flag. So you can drop it to hand it off to teammates, but obviously once it's on the ground, it's easy for your opponent to get hold of. So there's lots of kind of rich tactical play, lots of kind of respawning next to each other. There are kind of paired respawn points. We have models respawning in the cube. One of the red respawns is next to, there are two respawns where there is an enemy respawn directly next to your cube. So that creates a nice sort of challenge. So this is a good free-flowing game. The other thing that's nice is the weapon spawns are en route to the flag. So your weapons come into play. It's not one of these modes where the weapons are kind of outside of the kind of the scrum of play. So that's really it's a really nice little scenario, and really opens some tactics up for the granted limited games I've been able to play. So that one's on screen. Changes. You see all the games now score to 20 VP. So it was 18 in the previous season. It's now 20, which just squares that off. In this game mode, a flag is worth 6 points each. So you'll need 3 flags and change to win the game. It is more balanced than the original Capture the Flag, which is really good. The key thing to watch with this is, in addition to scoring 6 points per flag, you can now score 1 VP for every enemy you kill. So you score for killing. That is pretty common across all of the game modes. In every game mode now, even the ones that have come back, like Strongholds from Season 1, you get to score a point when you kill an enemy. So the score keeps ticking up through that kind of violence. That's really helpful. It makes the game, it balances out the game quite a bit. Things like Strongholds, it's a lot harder to get a lock on that game because of the kind of the points for killing. It becomes a bit easier to balance out. So I've really enjoyed that addition, and I'm not normally a violence prone player. I'm a much more scenario player. But for the missions I've played with that's really kind of worked well.
What about the scenario? So as James mentioned, there are now scenario achievements. So achievements specific for certain scenarios. I can't work out which ones. Oh no, there we go. Siege. I don't think there's any Siege ones, is there?
No, some of the scenarios do now have specific achievements attached to them. There isn't one for Siege. There are probably more achievements this with this pack, and they are slightly easier to achieve as achievements. So you're going to see kind of more. You're going to see more achievement scoring, which is good because it helps kind of balance that out. They're a little less fiddly to track as well. We'll talk about that in just a moment, I think. If you want, we'll just quickly run through the scenarios. I'm not going to read them all out in terms of what they do, right?
No.
But there are 8 scenarios for Season 1. That's good because you could just roll a D8 on your game night and go, what are we playing? That's on top of all the other scenarios you've already got. So the 4 exist. So there are 4 returning scenarios: Extraction, Strongholds, King of the Hill, and VIP. Those are all really nice ones. The lion's share that there are small changes to respawn locations and sort of some quality of life stuff in there. Broadly, sort of the same game as you would have seen before. And all of them have points for killing. included in the score now in a way that just like helps the score tick up nicely. So really enjoying that. Oddball is back, but it's sort of reasonably well modified. It's got a scoring change in there, which makes that game quite different in texture. Oddball is the most problematic mission they've had so far. I kind of hoped it would have taken a season off, to be honest, but it's the one they keep having to adjust because it's very strange. The change to Oddball, I think, is interesting. So with Oddball, your primary method of scoring, although you do get points for holding the ball, your primary method of scoring now is killing your opponent with the ball, which changes the rhythm of that game really nicely. And then there are three
it's
new
like them
scenarios.
just trying to make Fletch happen. That's a Mean Girls reference. I don't think you'll get that, but it's just they try to make Fletch happen.
Yeah, well, no, I get I do get that reference. Yes, I think yes, I mean the problem is Oddball is iconic to Halo multiplayer.
It is.
They're but they do, so it does kind of keep coming back. We'll get it there. We'll get there eventually. But by season 15, I'm sure we'll have nailed Oddball down. But this is certainly an interesting change to Oddball. I haven't played enough of it yet to know how much of a change it is, but it will work really well. We'll see. It's certainly a new and interesting kind of version. For the three new scenarios, and then there are three kind of brand new scenarios. You've seen Siege. We've just taught you through Siege. There is another flag-based mission called Illusion, which is really interesting. That again, that is more similar to the current Capture the Flag, but has some really nice tweaks and the layout change that makes the game a lot more interesting. And then Headhunter, which is about killing your enemy and then collecting their skulls and moving them back to location points. That again, I played a little bit of that. I think that's really interesting. There is no Slayer because you get points for killing in every game mode now. So
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
no Slayer, but people can always play Slayer. It's not a.
I mean, types don't go away from the past. I mean, it's just like when a new game like Kings of War is coming up with 4th edition, doesn't mean you can never play 3rd edition or 2nd edition ever again. It's just this is just where the current game when you go to tournaments and so forth. Most likely these are going to be the scenarios that come up. So. Because I mean, once you buy it, you've got it. You can always.
On your game night, right? This is like just play whatever you want to play, right? And if you really want to play Slayer, I mean, I think often Slayer's a great like we got 20 minutes left kind of game. Let's play a 4-rounder Slayer. But play what you want.
I do find Slayer's a good way of introducing people into the game too, because it's simple. It's a simple concept. Just kill the most. I mean, then you can start introducing. Because I mean, as I said. When I made my niece cry, we played Slayer. We didn't we didn't play any. I didn't want to miss that. I didn't want to make it overcomplicated, especially when you're introducing someone to wargaming in general, because that was the first wargame she ever played. And it's no one can tell you your fun is wrong. So never feel like that you have to be 100% up to date.
No, and just, the main thing is if you're not I would encourage people to go to organized play events. They are so much fun, and it's so great to meet more people in the community. It helps the community grow. So if you can get to one, and these are great scenarios to play there. If you're content just playing on your kitchen table with a few friends, then there are already plenty of game modes out there for you. These are 3 new interesting game modes to add to your repertoire. That's and that's good as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think this is it's a really good set of adjustments, and just kind of changing the scenarios up changes the meta very slightly. It gives people new things to think about, keeps the game fresh. So it's all all to the good, really.
Yeah, I really want to play Illusion. That's the one that stuck out to me the most. And I don't know why. It just seems unique.
Yeah. Well, we'll parlay that one on, because obviously there's 2 flag games there, right? Siege and Illusion. You've also got flags used in Strongholds and Extraction and King of the Hill. So there's now kind of 5 flag-based game modes, which is cool. There is a new achievement, Parade. In addition to Parade Ready, which is your current kind of bring a fully painted force thing, there is Represent. Paint your own team flag and use it in the scenario as an achievement, which is something I've lobbied for. So I'm quite pleased to see make it into the list. And this is. Go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, can you actually buy the flags separately? Because I know that came with the original Flashpoint kit, right? It came with the Flashpoint Recon or Spartan edition.
Yeah, the original Spartan edition contained flag models. There are, so flags are the easiest thing in the world to model. And as war gamers, a lot of people, if you're sat there thinking, I don't have a flag, how do I get a flag? You will undoubtedly now have people around you who war game, right? Or go to a bits company. Plastic flags are very available. People have spares from GW kits that you can modify up. That should be easy enough. It's the easiest thing in the world to make a custom flag. There are loads of tutorials to do that, particularly from historical gamers on YouTube. But you've got you need a little bit of wire, either brass rod or even, frankly, a correctly, a well bent paper clip or a sewing needle would probably do part of the job for you. And then either a bit of plastic or a bit of old plastic. You can use a bit of heat to melt and to sort of shape into the ripples of a flag. They're easy enough to do, but what I'd love to see people doing, the reason I think this is a really nice thing to have is it opens up modeling opportunities for people, and it lets them bring some real personality to their own team. So I'd love to see people with some nice custom flags at events. I think that's why I think this is why I kind of lobbied a bit for an achievement like this, is it lets people kind of bring some personality to their own fire team. But in terms
I was being dumb. I thought you had to get the flag from Mantic and then paint it. Now I realize you could just make your own flag. Sorry, I was being a complete moron because I was like, how like expecting everyone to buy the little flag miniatures from Mantic. Then I realized you could just make your own. Yeah, you're just right. Yeah,
make your own. And ultimately, it's a bit of wire and a bit of cardboard. If at the lowest end, right? So there's no barrier to entry with that. But the opportunity to have people with nice custom flags that are their flag, I think, just adds modeling opportunities. I think back to kind of Guild Ball did this, I think, with custom goals for a while. I think it's a really nice modeling kind of hobby opportunity for people. And it's kind of baked.
Your one looks amazing. Your team was it Team Wolf?
Fox, yeah.
Five Fox, yeah. Fox, your one looks stunning. So I'm very envious when you post an update to your model. So yeah, that is a very good point. I didn't notice that. And to be clear, this is one of the just plain achievements, not scenario achievements. So it should be when we talk about achievements now, we just have to state what kind of achievement it is if it's added. So the parade yourself and also the represent are definitely just the normal achievements. Cool.
Yeah. So that's just, and so in some game modes, that's 2 of your 10 achievements sorted by the time you're deployed. There's a lot of returning achievements. There are some new ones. Want to have a catcher's gone, so get another nice soft nerf to frag, which is good. And then there are scenario specific. So there are, I should have counted beforehand. So there's about 13 achievements sort of out of the 10 for the original, in the main, kind of available in every game pile. And then in the sort of the scenario specific achievements, there are things like Zone Ranger returns, which is the current one for King of the Hill. And then there are, a lot of them have 2. So you got defense in King of the Hill, kill an enemy model in a hill you currently control. So you've already got the hill, you kill an enemy in trying to take the hill from you. You get you get an achievement. There's a load of achievements now. They're particular to game modes. So there's some for strongholds, for oddball, for extraction. There's one for VIP. So I think there's a nice selection there. It should be easier to score achievements, which is good. And there is a lot of the fiddlier tracking ones are gone as well, which will help. So you still got your triple and your double kill.
So based on your experience and really going to dive into the whole how achievement points do affect tournament results, how do you feel about these scenario achievements? How much of a difference do you think this will make in terms of how people place and so forth? Do you think we're going to see a bit of a swing in terms of things, or do you think this is just going to be little minimal changes here or there?
So I think it's interesting. So the fact we're scoring to 20 on mainline VPs now means there's sort of 30 points available for winning the game, and then another 10 for achievements. So again, it slightly reduces the impact of achievements there. Achievements being easier to get probably reduces the variation you're going to see as a result of achievements. It's going to be less. You see less people getting massively ahead on achievements, probably as a result of this, which again probably pushes us back towards win-loss draw being more relevant. I do still worry a little bit about like the problem that you face when you have a very low scoring game. In that creates problems for you, sort of in a macro sense, at the tournament overall, because even winning with a low score is a real detriment. So I still think that's prevalent. I mean, I think we'll have to see how it maths out on the table. I'm not inherently worried this is going to make anything worse, though. I think this is new achievements. Making achievements easier to track is the main thing. I worry about like overloading players with bookkeeping. In the previous version of the game, I think if we can try and keep, I would personally like to see achievements. This currently sort of, I think with game mode specific achievements, there's something like 20 achievements now. At any one time, of which maybe 14, 15 could be live, or available to score. I think like there's a danger in giving players too much bookkeeping to do, particularly for new players who are trying to figure out how to play the game and then do this bookkeeping. We're not there. I think I would like to see the number of achievements kind of drop overall, to like actually let's have more scenario specific ones and fewer generics. But it's a fantastic system. It is fun to do. So I'm not. I think we'll see where we end up with it. But achievement wise, I think this is in a decent space.
And this particular issue, when it comes to achievements, is something that the community do talk outside of us as well. Here's a comment that we got on our YouTube channel. Oh, I'll switch over to here. Oop, nope. We'll go to that one. So Paladin Prime G2. They say, in my experience with Halo Flashpoint, achievements dilute the overall experience. I'm in the opinion that wins, losses, and draws should be the only metric in tournament setting. Now, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do get the point that people come from the outside into the game, that getting an understanding of the achievements and how it actually influence placings as well can be difficult. But I mean, this is kind of the feeling that some people have when it comes to achievements. I'm actually leaning more towards pro achievements now than I used to be quite negative for it, but now I'm seeing how it adds a brand new element into when you're playing a tournament, that you have to think outside of just this game you're playing. You have to think about, how is it going to affect your overall rankings as well. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about achievements, but I am leaning to more pro. And with these additional scenario ones, it's gonna be very interesting for the season to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of agree with this sentiment, right? Like, I do want to see a high correlation between win, loss, draw, and final standings, because for all the reasons we talked about last episode, I'm not going to open that kind of worms again.
No, the gentleman's agreement thing, that let's not dive into that.
Let's not go there again. If people want to listen to that episode again, that's fantastic. That episode is available. Please, by all means, go for it. We're going to have the I would like to see winning. Winning is important in an organized play setting, and the achievements are fantastic, though. They're part of the IP. I can hear the running riot sound effect from Halo 3 in my head, as we're thinking about this. It is a fantastic part of part of the game. I think it's the way that it interacts with scoring. So I don't want to get rid of achievements. I like achievements. I think they're a positive thing. And the joy of sticking a little sticker on a thing when you're playing is it's really nice. Like, very childish.
The kid in you never died, did it?
Yeah, that's it. It's like playing with toy soldiers, mate. I mean, of course it didn't. I think the thing for me is it's balancing it within the scoring. And Mantic are working on that. We see that in the iterations as they go. This will get refined. I think, if I was starting with a blank slate, what I would love to have done is say, actually, achievements add to the scoring in the game itself, so that you it becomes a kind of, it basically just bring it into win-loss draw. You could use a system you had now with win-loss draw as your primary decider and then total tournament points as your tiebreaker, right? There's all sorts of ways, or achievements as your tiebreaker. There's all sorts of ways of doing it that aren't the way it works now. But this is the way we've got right now. I don't think this will be any worse than the last season. And I'm really, really excited for how all this interacts together.
Yeah, and definitely keep talking and keep these conversations going in terms of what you're liking, what you're not liking. I mean, the one of the benefits of Mantic, and that's the reason why people like us start a whole podcast and a whole series of different podcasts on Mantic, is because they're very receptive of listening to people. It can't be 100% perfect. No one is, no company is, but they're active in the community and they're very active in listening to people. And if you listen to Ronnie for 5 seconds, the passion is definitely there. So definitely keep talking about it, keep putting your hand up and just speaking your mind. And a lot of the time it may be negative, and that's fine as well, because we want the best game possible. But also mention what you like about it as well. A lot of people, especially on the internet, we typically only hear about the what we don't like about something, because one, it's easy to complain about something, but also you don't always say when you like something because you like it. There's not much to say. The sentences are very short, but definitely speak up about it as we go through the season, because that's going to shape the second season 2, and it's going to shape season 3, and possibly even outside of Halo Flashpoint when we look at the bigger scale games, Halo games that they're looking at. They're going to be incorporating a lot of their learnings that they get through this at the moment. So definitely speak up and leave your comments down below, and either on Spotify, and a little heads up, Spotify does release an hour early than we'll do on YouTube. So, but definitely leave a comment there and leave a comment on our YouTube, and we'll bring it up like we have today.
Yeah. No, that's it. We'd love to hear from you. It's been great to hear people say hello at events and, and meet people. And it's great to see the YouTube comments. So thank you. And even when it's, even
tough.
when it's
a tough conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, even when it's something, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't, if this wasn't a great game. This is a fantastic game. There's a reason, I'm involved in organising tournaments. There's a reason I'm painting models. There's a reason I got up at 5 o'clock this morning to podcast. It's because this is a great game. Shall we bring it all together? I think, I'm conscious of time, people's time. We might have got away with this as a single podcast, Dave, which,
yeah, I think so, because we like short and sweet, and there's only so much you can talk about without actually going into the nitty gritty. And we want people to have their own discoveries as they go through it, because we don't want to take your opinion before you got your hands on it. I will say, before we enter in wrapping things up, we did get another comment about our last episode about the gentleman's agreement. We're not going to go into it. We've caused enough damage. So Memphis Reigns 436. We're recognizing your comment. I've got it on the screen if anyone's curious to what they said, and you can definitely reply. But I think we've caused enough drama, and let's just leave the gentleman's agreement thing alone for now. But we also did get actually another question about how does burn work, and I would suggest, as a little bit of a plug and a segue, is listen to the Truth and Reconciliation guys, because they're going to be doing the other side of the ODST units, which one of them may or may not have something with fire. So
he's holding a flamethrower.
He's holding a flamethrower. I mean, I was trying to be subtle about it, but yes, he's holding a flamethrower.
The model is holding a flamethrower. So look, I could read that rule out. It's not going to make sense absent the context of the flamethrower. So let's leave that to our friends at Truth and Reconciliation. Just bringing it all together then quickly in a sort of summary of in summary of kind of what we've got. So looking at all of this, the violence is up. Stocks are up on violence because there's more points for killing. What's good now, what was good before is good now, but the points are adjusted so that you will need to take fresh and interesting stuff. That's cool. The only thing I think we're starting to see is a little bit of divergence in design objectives, right? So you've got you've got a lot of running around scenarios and a lot of killing scenarios, and then models that are slow and fragile being published in the ODSTs, and presumably in kind of grunts and jackals to come. So that's a square we're going to have to circle at some stage, or a circle we have to square at some stage, but we'll I think what's really interesting, the games I've had to play with this, it feels really fresh just with these changes, and I can't wait to get my hands on these gorgeous ODST models. I'm really annoyed because work were going to have me drive past Mantic HQ on release week for a meeting, so I could have literally popped in and got my copy. They are now not sending me to drive past next week, so I'm gutted. I got like all hotel room expenses paid to drive past Mantic HQ for work, and it's like, oh no, we're moving that meeting. It's like, drat.
Did you order it from your local or from Mantic?
I've ordered from Mantic in the end. I do generally support my FLGS. I need to be a bit better at that. I'm getting my pre-order strategy wrong at the moment, and that's me. Because I just windmill slam pre-order when Mantic put it up, and that's probably the wrong way to do things. But I'm too excited for the stuff.
Unfortunately, I haven't ordered mine yet. Just from a financial point of view, it's a little bit tough. Especially importing it to New Zealand and ordering anything over here is like an arm and a leg. But I'm hoping to get my hands on it if I save my pennies over the next few months. So I'm hoping to do a bit of an unboxing for on the channel as well, similar like I did with the Banished. But I can't guarantee what's going to arrive. It just depends on many other factors in my life. So, but definitely once I get hands on it, you'll know it because it'll be on the channel. So keep an eye out for that.
Cracking.
Cool. I think we're all done. Anything else you want to sign off? I think we've wrapped things up rather nicely without spoiling too much and being very careful. Hopefully, in our next episode, we're going to try and get Ash, who's part of the rules committee, on the podcast. We want to try and get his voice more regularly because he's a really good insight and a source of knowledge going forward, especially how the rules adapt. He's going to give some good insight. And we'll also be able to dive into more of the stuff that we couldn't show just because it's now past the release date and we can dive more into it. But if you have any questions, anything you want specifically for us to elaborate on, just reach out. And this is more of a community podcast than just me and James talking. So feel free to reach out. Cool.
Yeah, all good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your comments. And
I'm bad at
we're back
wrapping things up. Yeah, all right, cool.
Yeah,
see you, everyone.
Take care.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Okay, stop.
Excellent start.
Welcome back. All right, anyway.